And towards the end, we'll make sure that you have some time for refreshments, as we'll be here soon. And most importantly, students, how are you feeling this afternoon? Whoa, I don't know if that was convincing. However, we have a wonderful agenda in store this afternoon. I know it's been a long day. If you're anything like me, you've been up since, 6, 7 o'clock. And to see that you're here after school shows already a level of leadership and commitment, and I thank you for that, because you are the next generation of leaders to take over our community, and I have a feeling it's going to be a great one with all of you that I see here. Okay, so everyone should have a pamphlet that gives you an overview of our guest speakers, as well as the presentation and the theme this afternoon, which is all around honoring the accomplishments of those that have been considered great Black Americans that stepped into their leadership, not just for themselves in their own personal and professional growth, but also to be of service and support to people, planet, and the community. And so I hope that you enjoy, and we're going to get started by seeing a little video of what Go Beyond Greatness is all about. We also have a display table of some of the highlights of the greats. We have a book called The Fierce 44, which are all Black Americans that have been able to live a life of legacy, and many of them are still living, so they're living a life of legacy in their own right, which I find very, very fascinating. So please enjoy the display table at the end after this event. All right, so Go Beyond Greatness. We've been working with Ellenville Central School District now. We're going on year 3. And thanks to Mr. Mulhorn and the school superintendent, Lisa, and assistant superintendent Angela, principal Carl Pavone, and assistant principal Kelly White, and all of the school teachers, administrative staff. I see Mr. Brian Faduke in the crowd, and there's so many others and Asha, our wonderful librarian. Everyone coming together in order to give us a warm welcome and working with the Ellenville student population. We identify ourselves as a college and career preparation organization, all to empower the next generation to not only go beyond their greatness, but not to forget where they come from, to make sure that they use their greatness as a way of leadership and service to make their communities better. Within the past few years, the students tell me some of the highlights are the professional development trainings. So Go Beyond Greatness, we focus on 4 main components. Number 1 is leadership. Everyone say that with me. Leadership. Let's try that again. I'll go first, you go next. Leadership. Effective communication skills. Very nice. Seems like you've done this before. Positive behavior. And what I mean by positive behavior is the idea that, life does not come with a handbook. And so as young people, I just have to encourage you, if you find yourself being confronted with failure, please know that is not the end of the road. Positive thinking at its best. It's just an experience to help you understand what steps you need to take in order to reach your goals. And the last component in terms of our core values, personal discipline. Let me hear you say personal discipline.
Personal discipline.
Do I have any military vets inside the room? Possibly, maybe so, maybe not. Maybe they just don't want to admit. But the military, they do such a great job within their leadership and personal discipline. Could I handle their training? Probably not. But I do see the value of that. And it's the idea that if you're going to say you're going to do something, be accountable and you follow through in it. And that is personal discipline. And with Go Beyond Greatness, we believe is that if you can incorporate all these core values, there is no question on your life success, despite the background of where you may come from, whether that you come from a privilege or non-privilege, whether you may come from wealthy or the opposite of what you consider wealthy, whether you come with a professional network because mom and dad know a lot of people in high places or no one knows you. When you incorporate leadership, effective communication skills so that you can promote yourself at any given time, whether you're prepared or not prepared, and you have positive behavior. You're always finding the good intentions in everything that you do, and personal discipline means that you're goal-oriented. You identify a goal and you follow through. I promise you, you can go beyond your greatness. And so some of the programs that we teach are just that, and I want you to take a look. Can I have a tech person help me out here? I think I have it. Let's see. Okay, so this is the GoPro with the elevator pitch line under one of our workshop series of the Build Your Brand project. And I'm looking at the date. This is October 2018, so since it's Thursday, we're going to give you a video of Throwback Thursday. Get it? Thank you. So one of the things that we do is the importance of students exploring early careers and professions. How do you know what you really want to become if you have never been exposed to the array of jobs and careers and professions that are out there? So this is one from New York City. For those, if this is your first time, then I encourage you to connect with us on social media. If you're anything over than 18, then you probably have Facebook. So you can find us at Go Beyond Greatness Inc. If you're under 18, then you can like us on Instagram, which is Go_Beyond Greatness, and then we have the YouTube page. That's the exact name of the organization. The students, in partnership with Ellenville High School, Mr. Mulhorn and Mr. Fadouk, as well as our team with Go Beyond Greatness, we went down to New York City, we visited the United Nations, a music production company that produces music for film, TVs, and commercials, called Practice Worldwide. We also went to New York City Ubers, not just to see the drivers. No. We went to Times Square to see the software engineers. All those big buildings that you see in Times Square, there's a lot of businesses there. I was so happy that they welcomed Ellenville to come upstairs. We all passed security. Yes, you go students and be able to see that. And then this is the Kingston Business Tech Tour for students, one of the first ones in Kingston, New York of Ulster County. In addition to the New York City tours, we also do local tours within workforce and professional development. And this year we looked at a number of different industries.
Go Beyond Greatness impacted me as an educator by seeing students improve their self-esteem, be happy, learn how to work with other students, and realize that there's other things outside their community that it's available.
It's actually just going around and just kind of an outside cop.
For sheriffs, we've got 85 sensors
getting so unfair. We've got a lot of the actual question material.
Anyone over 21, I want you to think about it. If you had this when you were a young person, in terms of the career that you're in now, would you be doing something different?
So we got an order for 996, it ends up being almost 4,000 actual cushions.
So what my question to you, the two of you would be, is what can students do now to start to build upon their experience so that they can, at the end of the day, say, do I need college, or do I have enough experience under my belt because I did the work in high school to be able to get a great profession or career in the future?
Yeah. One, just thinking about, a lot of times, this is overthought. If it's something, if you're interested in doing, if it's plumbing or architecture or just anything, a lot of times you could just call these places and say, I'm interested in this. You'd be surprised how many opportunities you get from just reaching out, just putting in, just trying.
You never know. Networking with somebody right now, you don't know where that person could be 10 years from now, okay? So the more successful you are in networking might lead to greater opportunities down the road.
It impacted me because it showed me that college could go for anyone, basically. That it don't matter if you have problems or not. Yeah.
Here, Go Beyond Greatness at a radio Kingston.
And when I was in college, I thought it was fun for a business to go next door. So I was an entrepreneur and rented a space and
In music production, in terms of what I've noticed with a lot of the stations, the radio stations that they offer, so within the music aspect of it, it could be someone who actually makes beats and rhythms and sells them, right?
The most important thing you've got to realize is that you will be changing and changing and changing.
So Go Beyond Greatness enabled me to see and realize that I want to continue working in education and field of education to try to help anybody that I can, because I think it's honestly the best way to try to help as many people as possible, all while making yourself happy because you're socializing.
What would you say is a starting position if they wanted to go into banking? I know you had mentioned your journey and yours, but what do you recommend?
well, certainly we have teller positions available currently. So as an entry level, just knowing, having a high school diploma, basic math knowledge, that will help you get into a basic teller position.
Really, the sky's the limit when it comes to Ulster Savings Bank. It's one of the nicest things to see somebody that's a teller is now the person that's in charge in a branch.
It impacted me and how I had more experiences and learned about more colleges and ways to apply myself.
What are we doing right now?
Oh, we are in an engineering class. The professor's up there, I forgot his name, and he's never go. Hey y'all.
Well, do you know anything about building robots?
Electrical technicians do hands-on work with very complicated and expensive equipment, like automated manufacturing equipment, Veteran North Railroad equipment, or security systems for companies like the FBI.
When you guys are considering what college you want to attend, there's three major parts that I want you guys to consider and focus on. The three parts are the academic fit, the social fit, and the financial fit. all right?
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to congratulate all of the students who participated in and completed the Go Beyond Greatness program, college and career readiness activities. You did a wonderful job. I also want to congratulate all of our Circle of Courage students who spent the first semester this year learning about the Circle of Courage and practicing their inherent values. My Brother's Keeper offers kids an opportunity to have a brighter future through learning new pathways to college, careers, to learn how to get along with one another, how to complete their high school with excellence. Go Beyond Greatness and Circle of Courage are two of those pathways. So I want to thank you all for participating.
Ellenville High School students, give yourselves a round of applause, and for the adults, please join me. It takes a lot of commitment and dedication. They're not receiving extra school credit. They don't receive financial stipends. This is all volunteerism on their own in terms of building their own professional development. I think it's fantastic. Kudos to all of you. And at this time, I want to introduce Ellenville High School's Coordinator of Family and Community Engagement, Mr. Frank Mulhern.
Most of the groups we have are a little more lively than this, so I'm asking my students to respond to me. Okay, okay?
All right, all right.
All right, all right?
Okay, okay.
Can't hear you. Okay, okay?
All right, all right.
All right, all right?
Okay, okay.
All right. So, how does this happen? How do we begin this? First of all, I'm going to say that it starts with courage. You know, Ellenville was not accepted to be a recipient of the My Brother's Keeper grant at one time. It happened because our superintendent here called up the Board of Regents, and one of the regents in particular at Monticello, and said, we need this. So her courageous act got us accepted. So that's how we got here. But how did we get here today? We've spent the last 2.5 years building something around the futures, the pathways to the future for these students that are sitting here and many, many others at Ellenville School District. Our My Brother's Keeper program is unique in that we help in all different grade levels. So from K to 12, My Brother's Keeper is active. And I'm not going to spend time going over all of it, but we're trying to reach as many kids as we can. And although My Brother's Keeper has a focus of pathways for young men and boys of color, in Ellenville, all activities are open to everyone so that we are always together as we're helping each other carve a future out for those that are targeted and those that are just comrades. So all of our activities about that. I want to thank the people who are here, but I want to say that one of the other pieces besides courage is luck. And luck, and I was just teasing the superintendent that Miss Angela Urbina Medina, the deputy superintendent, and I were commissioned by the superintendent to attend the Martin Luther King celebration of 7 churches here in Ellenville, and we went. And I happened to mention in one of our talks that we're trying to get our kids exposed to things they might not normally reach. Who's your congressman? Well, it happens to be Antonio Delgado, who will be here today. How did that happen? We had a thought in mind we'd like to bring him. But at that church, at the end, a man walked up to me, and he's seated over here, John Gavaris, Ulster County Legislator, and said, I can help you. Now that was January 17th or some date like that. And here we are a month later, and we are going to have the congressman visit us shortly. So I want to thank you for the luck you brought. I want to thank the superintendent for the courage she always has and demonstrates. And I want to thank all of you students for taking up the charge and making a commitment to yourself that you will expose yourself to opportunity and not be afraid of it. And not say, hey, we're Ellenville, you know, we don't really get much here, so we're not going to take charge and take hold of it. If you look at what Go Beyond Greatness has meant to us, it's meant a lot. We met Ashley Knox in this room, or I did, where she said who she was and what she did, Go Beyond Greatness Inc. All right. Well, when you look at those videos, these young people have been in places they would never dream of. Never dream of. They might get those opportunities maybe in other places, but not through Ellenville, and Ellenville is now producing that. And we're continuing to do it again this year. So I want to extend my thanks to everyone who is here, who took the time out of your busy day and the end of your day to come here to meet Ashley Knox, who is our conductor here for today. But Ashley has done a fabulous job of bringing to us opportunities and programs that our kids can get involved in that are meaningful to their future. We want to honor a couple of people that have made things possible as well. There are some folks from the Ulster County Youth Bureau and the Human Rights Commissioners here. So Mr. Tyrone Wilson is our new Ulster County Human Rights Commissioner, and I'm grateful that they're here. And a lady who just charged in over here one day said, we got to do something in Ellenville, let's work together. And that's how she operates. She's a wonderful, wonderful person who is the Ulster County Youth Bureau Director, Ms. Neva Dawson. I thank you for being here. I also asked about the possibility of having Elliot Auerbach here, who has this really long title. But he's been doing some wonderful work for the county and now with New York State as the controller for local government and school accounting. So Elliot, thank you for being here. I want to thank, besides my students, the staff and faculty who were able to attend today. It's very, very important that you're here, and thank you for your help with everything that we do. Is Joachim here? Joachim Larchie. Joachim and I know each other almost 40 years. And our work has crisscrossed many, many times, and I love it every time we're together. Joachim is a special member of, through Ulster BOCES, of the Ellenville School District. He's here twice a week. He's a professional interventionist. Kids don't know what that means, but he's always helping kids and always assisting the program. We appreciate that, Joachim. So, I want to thank also Carl Pavone and Kelly White, the principal and assistant principal here at the high school, for always making it possible and always making room for the My Brother's Keeper program to happen. So I appreciate that. If we could have a hand, where's Carl and Kelly? They were here. They're getting their picture taken. All right. Okay. So I want to thank you all for that. The My Brother's Keeper program is continuing every day and even in the summer. And we're about to launch part 2 of our Circle of Courage youth group, both in the middle school and the high school, as well as Go Beyond Greatness 2. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it back to you, Ms. Ashley.
Thank you, Mr. Mulhern. All right, and so we're going to continue on schedule. Representative Delgado, as you know, is here. However, what we're going to do is a little icebreaker on Black American greatness from the 19th to the 21st century. And at this time, I would like to introduce to you our program manager, Ruth Howell Johnson, as she's going to lead us into the educational activity.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here, for giving us your time and your energy. And I have to say that I'm from Wappingers. I'm actually from New York City, but I moved up to Wappingers, and I've only been up here to Ellenville a few times, and I'm loving this library. Whoever set this up, whether it's for Black History Month or continuously, it's just gorgeous. And so I would strongly encourage you to not just walk by the books and the posters that you see out here, but stop and take a look at them and read them, because it's like some really, really interesting stuff. Okay. So Ashley and I came up here and to facilitate Black History Month activities and workshops for the students that are here. And so we started with talking about why Black history, why we study in Black history, and just some information as to who actually started the Black History Month series. Just want to show you a quick video. in case you don't know.
What, you may ask, is so important about studying history? The answer is as simple as it is important. If you knew your culture's history was directly linked to great writers, powerful leaders, successful business people, and pioneers, wouldn't that make you proud? Wouldn't that inspire you to do great things yourself? Those who endeavor to understand their own history are paving a path toward a bright future. Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black history, knew that knowledge of the African American experience would be the last way to destroy the chains of slavery. And so he made it his life's portion. In early 20th century America, it was popularly accepted that blacks in Africa had contributed nothing to world civilization, that slavery actually benefited those Africans who had the good fortune to be caught up in the slave trades.
It was damaging African Americans because they too were being exposed to these ideas and accepted them as truth, and it had a damaging effect on their self-esteem and their belief in themselves to be able to go on and educate and contribute to the world.
Those kinds of distortions not only permeated the world of white Americans, but sunk deeply into the souls of African Americans. If one was to believe these lies about his own people, then how could he achieve the confidence to break the mold? In 19 books and dozens of published articles, Carter G. Woodson worked to erase that false history and began to help all Americans of all cultures to understand the true history of the African people's experience in America and across the world.
He believed that hard facts, through research and fair-mindedness, would bring balance to history, and that his thesis was that all peoples in the world had made a contribution to civilization. And once that people on a mass scale understood this, there would be greater respect for all races, all ethnic groups, all religions.
Before Carter Woodson began publishing his own writings and those of contemporary historians, there were few media outlets that would shed light on the full story of African and African American achievements in the United States. He made sure Americans heard a different side of the story. In 1926, Woodson founded Negro History Week, which later evolved into Black History Month. To this day, the occasion continues to remind all Americans of the great accomplishments of writers, entrepreneurs, civil rights leaders, artists, and educators who helped create modern America. Woodson also founded what is now called the Study of African American Life and History, founded in 1950. This is the agency that decides on the theme for Black History Month each year. This legacy is still helping to inspire new generations of young people with true stories of outstanding achievements by Americans of African descent.
No person can imagine where he's going unless he knows where he's been.
The more I learn as I continue to educate myself and to study about people like James Lafayette, like Anthony Johnson, like Maggie Walker, it's an absolute inspiration to me. Because not only did they look like me, but because here you have an individual with enough character, enough strength, enough skill, that living in some very difficult times, they were able to use what they had, no excuses, no pity parties, but use what they had to advance their cause and take not only themselves, but other people to another level.
Across our country today, African Americans have overcome terrible lies and stereotypes to achieve great success. Carter Woodson inspired each of these people to understand the success that has been achieved by pioneers of their culture and the contributions they have made and are now making to our nation.
I'm technologically challenged. One of the things since we started facilitating these workshops is that we spoke about was that Black history is American history. And Black history is so extensive and it's so vast that all we could do is really scratch the surface with the time that we had, because there are so many people and so many places and events and inventions and contributions that African Americans and Africans within the diaspora have made to this country that we could just scratch the surface of it. We've also said, as Maya Angelou said, in order to know where you're going, you need to know where you've been and where you've come from. We've discussed the dangers of stereotyping and of feeling and thinking and behaving in certain ways, negative ways, due to misinformation or lack of information. And with the time that we have, so the most that we can do is hopefully plant some seeds, hopefully plant seeds for the students that we are working with, and inspire them and motivate them to continue to explore further, not only their own roots, but the norms and the values and the culture and history of others that we have shared this planet with and that we are sharing this planet with. And during this month in particular, as I look at various social media venues, I've frequently seen postings that highlighting the first black female and the first black chef and the first black business and the first black, first black, whatever. And I've asked myself, so why is it necessary to differentiate the first black and the first black female and the first black Latina, first black Native, first Native American, and so forth? And I said to myself that constantly calling out the first maybe diminishes the accomplishments of others who have made the same or similar achievements. So I decided to speak to one of my colleagues who specializes in diversity and inclusion. And what he said to me was, you know, Ruth, you're right. We should not have to mention the race or the gender of these first. And because based on the history of this country, we have American citizens that represent the diversity of the American identity. And many of these same people have been denied opportunities, have been profiled, have been experienced inequity, have been refused services, or just had to suffer the humiliation of being singled out because of their race or their gender. And so when we talk about diversity and inclusion, which has lately been some of the buzzwords that we have, we're talking about accepting and valuing and respecting the uniqueness and individuality of the differences of all people. So all of the meaningful contributions that make America what it is today comes from all of us, comes from all of just us that we share this planet with. And he continues to say, so I submit to you, instead of asking why call out these first, perhaps the question should be, why is it that in the 243 years since the birth of this country, since it was 1776, has it taken so long to recognize these firsts? First have existed in every walk of life and every industry, even before the birth of America. But they've not been recognized or received the credit that is due them for their accomplishments and their achievements and their contributions to this country and to the world. For example, West Point, which is the most prestigious and prominent military academies in the country, has a 217-year history. It just appointed its first African-American superintendent in 2018. That's 216 years later, the first. West Point again. West Point graduated the largest class of African-American young women less than a year ago. 217 years. These young women may someday be in foreign lands along with their male counterparts defending this country. So I think that's worthy of an amen. Okay, so can we say amen? 217 years, yay. Okay, anybody know these women? Okay, in 1962, just about 54 years ago, when the United States and the Soviet Union were engaged in a space race, and John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth, it was due to a group of African-American women, engineers, mathematicians, and scientists who configured the calculations of orbital mechanics for the trajectory of his orbit and his landing. And IBM IBM would not have gotten up and running when it did if it had not been for Dorothy Vaughan, another African-American woman. It took 54 years for these women to be recognized, and it was when an African-American female writer, Margot Shetterly, wrote the book Hidden Figures. If you haven't seen the movie Hidden Figures, or if you haven't read the book, I encourage you to put it on your bucket list. It is awesome. Okay. Need I say more?
Who is this? Who?
Y'all know what it is? Okay. 233 years. Okay, America's 233 years old. It took 233 years, 1776 to 2009, to elect the first African-American president. And these are just a few examples, but the list of unrecognized firsts who have contributed to the development of this country and the world goes on and on. So yes, I say that wholeheartedly. I agree, we should not have to identify them, but calling them out the first, it's okay. However, instead of focusing on the gender or the race of the first, I choose to be grateful that we as a nation are finally evolving. I hope that's what this means, that we are finally evolving to the place where we are recognizing the skills and the accomplishments and the contributions and achievements of all people. Finally, I just want to add that we're all human beings, and it inspires me, calling out these first now, it inspires me to dig deeper, to learn more about others who have been building and enhancing the development of this country and the world we live in. And what could be wrong with that? What could be wrong with that? Okay. So thank you.
Over the weekend, I was looking at the news, because I always have the news on when I'm home, and Spectrum had they had a segment around education throughout New York State and New York City. And one of the quotes was around increasing the type of diverse perspectives in the academia for students of all walks of life. And there was a quote I just want to share with you. It says, "To ensure our students have access to a wide range of reading materials representing diverse voices and perspectives, and really looking at how do we collaborate with community leaders and education advocates in a call for more diversity within the schools." And when Mr. Mulhern and the school administrators reached out to me to customize a Black History Month of educational activities, I was honored and grateful. It's something that I have never done for a school district before, although in my background, everyone knows I have a second bachelor's degree in Africana Studies, and so I did spend years studying the paradigm. And so I'm just thrilled that we had the opportunity to work with Ellenville Central School District and the high school to do this. And so thank you, school administrators and staff. Lastly, just because I want to be mindful of the time and make sure Delgado has time to talk to you, because everyone's here from Delgado. One of my firsts that inspired me, who's this guy right up here? Who is it? If he was here, you wouldn't say it like that. Muhammad Ali. So any student that has participated in Go Beyond Greatness, they know that the company name is inspired by Muhammad Ali's famous quote when he was such a young teenager, a young man. And he said, "I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was. I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was." And as a sociologist, and I just like to study why people do what they do, I said, what did he mean by this? I mean, still to this day, it's controversy over whether Ali was cocky or he just had confidence. And sometimes confidence is hard to grasp in today's society. And I think that it's confidence, and it's confidence that we need in order to go beyond our greatness. And I just felt that the last slide, in terms of calling out the first, it would be most appropriate before introducing Mr. Delgado, as Ali is, I'm a fan of Ali, but he's also an American hero to so many people around the world. And when I think about him, I said, there is no man or woman around the whole entire world that has been claimed by the world globally. Doesn't matter if you're in Australia, you're in China, you're in Africa, you're in Europe, South America, To be known as the greatest of all times, also known as the GOAT. Now, some of the students have told me that LeBron James is now the new GOAT, but that means he's not the first. Muhammad Ali, and I don't think he was even 25, definitely not 30, when the entire world came to consensus to call him for the first time in the history of humanity, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And when Representative Antonio Delgado was elected as our new congressman, the New York State congressman of our 19th district here, I said, oh man, this guy's the GOAT. This guy's the GOAT. And so without further ado, it is an honor. I am so thrilled to introduce to you this afternoon our New York State congressman of the 19th district, right here in the Mid-Hudson Valley, Mr. Antonio Delgado. And as a token of our appreciation, on behalf of Ellenville Central School District, Ellenville High School, Go Beyond Greatness, our students here, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How's everybody doing? Good. Good. That's mine. I think that's mine. Yep. There we go. Let me just say, I want to do some thank yous first, and then I'm going to talk to the young people in the room. You listening, young people? I'm talking to you. That's why I'm here. Talk to all of you. But I do, before I do that, I want to thank Ashley for the work. I want to thank the Ellenville Brothers Keeper Grant Coordinator, Frank. Where's Frank? For your work as well. I know there's some public servants in the room. Hopefully I haven't missed them. They're all here. I know John Gavaris. Where's John? Glad you're here, sir. Appreciate you being here. Assistant County Executive Anna Markowitz. Anna? Who's Anna? She's here? No? Okay. I know my man Tyrone is here. Ty, good to see you, sir. Human Rights Commission Tyrone, Youth Bureau Director Nina, good to see you. Thank you for your presence, and of course the Mayor Jeff Kaplan. Appreciate. Where'd he go? Where's Jeff? Not here?
They have his representative here.
Village man. There.
I got the village man.
Village man, problem. I also want to, is Maud here? Maud Bruce? I didn't see Maud. No? Okay. I want to, and just thank the entire Ellenville staff, all the teachers and administrators. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about my story, sort of how I got to where I am today. And Ruth, I am the first African American to represent upstate New York. And it's important to know a couple things about the district that I represent, so you can all understand how it happened and sort of, the uniqueness of what I'm doing currently. This district is a very big district. It's as big as Connecticut and Rhode Island combined. It's 2 states, okay? It's nearly 8,000 square miles. It takes you about 3.5 hours to drive end to end. There's 163 towns in this district. There are 11 counties, including Ulster, right? There's Sullivan, there's Dutchess, Columbia, Delaware. I can go on and on. Greene, Schoharie, Montgomery, Rensselaer. A lot of counties that make up this district. The district is 90% white, okay? 90% white. And it is the 8th most rural district in the entire country. Now, what does that mean? That means there are no big cities. So in all of these miles, 8,000 square miles, the biggest city, Kingston. And that's 23,000 or so. Now, most congressional districts, right? There's 435 all across the country. Every state has a set number. Every district has about 730,000. And most have major cities that can be anywhere from 70 to 80 to 100,000. The biggest in our entire district is Kingston. Let that sink in, okay? Because that means if you really want to represent a district like this, you can't just show up in one place and hope everybody sees you, right? You have to get out there and be seen. Now, why do I start with this? Because there are a lot of biases and stereotypes and prejudices out there. And if you're trying to break those, right, you're trying to help people connect with you in a meaningful way. The only way to do that sometimes is human-to-human contact. Is to let people experience you in person. That's a challenge, though, when you have to be everywhere in a district as big as this. But I can guarantee you I'm here today in this position because we did just that. Because we pushed and made sure we connected with every single person. Now, where did that start for me? That started way back when, in Schenectady, growing up, working class family, cutting coupons on Sundays with my mom with Patti LaBelle. Who knows Patti LaBelle? I know the older generation does. You do, all right, good. Patti LaBelle was singing in the background. We were cutting coupons, putting appliances and clothes on layaway. I was waking up every Sunday, going to church. I was the usher in the church. I was in the church kids choir. Sunday school, I was in the basement. Everything you could do on Sundays, we were there. You had the summer Bible school camp, we were there. So that was how I was raised. And education. Education. Some simple rules. I was a latchkey kid. What's a latchkey kid? Anybody know? Anybody know?
Not sure.
I'll tell you what a latchkey kid is. That means your parents are not at home when you get home. You get a key. Right? And that key's either under the mat or it's somewhere tucked away at the door. And when you come home, let yourself in, and you sit there and you do your homework, and you wait for your parents to come home. That was my life. There was no games back then. We didn't have the little video games. We did have those, but we didn't play them until my parents got home. So this is how I was raised. My parents told me every single day, and my little brother, education is the gateway to opportunity. That's it, simple and plain. It is the gateway to opportunity. It is the great equalizer. The great equalizer. No matter your race, your class, your gender, your religion, your sexual orientation, doesn't matter. You get a good education, you work hard, you can at least give yourself a chance in this country to get ahead. Just work hard. Just work hard. And that's how I was starting to figure out what work ethic was about. I was also an athlete. I played basketball. Still got a jump shot. And I can tell you, I learned a lot of lessons on the basketball court too. About being a team player, about trusting my teammates, about thinking about how to win and what it takes to win. And finding that inner strength to overcome obstacles, to trust the folks around you when times are not what you want them to be. I bottle all those things up. Now my dad said to me, he was not a doctor. Both my parents worked for GE, manufacturing company that was big time in Schenectady back then. But he wanted me to be a doctor. He told me every day I was a little kid, that's the most noble profession. Gotta be a doctor. Got to be a doctor. Well, I'm not a doctor, so clearly it didn't work out, right? But when I went to school, I went to Colgate. I played basketball at Colgate, Division I program. I studied my first year of college pre-med because Dad said, that's what you're gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. I showed up, went to chemistry class, went to biology class, and said, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. And then about 4 or 5 months into it, I realized, maybe this is not really what I want to do. I mean, it sounds good, but who am I? What is true to me? What do I believe? What's going to be my path? And that's a scary thing to have to endure or think about when you got your parents at home, who, by the way, are paying for my education, right? And want me to do right by what they do. And I want to do right by what they instilled in me. But by the end of my sophomore year, I had to make a decision. Do I want to stay on the path that people wanted me to be on, even though it wasn't my own path? Or did I want to follow my heart and do what I had grown to love? And I had grown to love philosophy and political science. I just happened to take an elective, a class that I just saw called What is Real and What is True. That sounds cool. I went in that classroom and I met the mentor who changed my life. One man changed my life on that campus. And he convinced me that this was the calling for me. Thinking about big questions, pursuing political agendas. So from there, I took a chance. And I told my dad. He wasn't happy about it, but he liked the fact that I actually was trying to be me. It was a tough conversation. I had to make myself vulnerable. I had to believe in myself. I had to sort of put myself out there, not knowing what the outcome might be. Now, why am I sharing this with you? It's a theme I'm going to share with you for this conversation. You got to be willing to take chances to grow. This is all about greatness, right? It's all about where greatness lies. And the question, everybody says, be great, go beyond greatness, but no one actually tells you sometimes how to be it. How to actually be it. And if you want to be great, you got to test yourself. You got to be willing to go through the ups and the downs. That's how you build the internal strength to rise above any situation. That was my first test. I remember that discussion with my dad, driving home from school, telling him in the car, literally I can see it in my mind's eye. We stopped at a gas station. I said, Dad, I don't want to do this. I want to major in philosophy. And he said, I'm disappointed in you. And I had to internalize that. And in doing so, was able to push myself. Because then it was, I have to do right by this decision. I've got to do right. I have to be great at this now. I put the pressure on myself. So then from there, you fast forward a few years later, and I find myself overseas at Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, studying philosophy and political theory. Now, a Rhodes Scholar is something I can tell you when I was cutting coupons with my mom and dad, we weren't talking about me going to Oxford on one of the most prestigious scholarships you can get. That wasn't a part of my thinking at that point. But the choice that I made my sophomore year in college got me in that position by my senior year in college. And there I was. I came home from Oxford, was able to then get my law degree. And I went to Harvard. Now, I graduated from there, and everybody said you should go and practice law. You can make good money, work at a law firm. You know what I did? I moved to LA and started my own hip hop company and rap. That's what happened. My parents were a little confused. Yeah, more than a little. I had a lot of debt hanging over my head. But I believed in something in my heart. I believed that I had something I wanted to share. And I believed, and I still am somebody who believes in the power of hip-hop music. And I wanted to rap about the things that I cared about. I wanted to rap about police brutality. I wanted to rap about income inequality. I wanted to rap about climate change. I wanted to rap about the ways in which we mistreat women. I wanted to rap about these things and use this vehicle to do so. And I felt that my story gave me an angle that might make me worth people's time. Now, it didn't work out. I mean, it didn't work out financially. Right? It didn't rise to the level of commercial success. But I spent 5 years out there. No family, family's out on the East Coast. Sleeping on air mattresses, working odd-end jobs. I was a parking lot attendant for a few years. Just trying to get by to make sure I had enough money to go get studio time. That's what I did for 5 years. Now, 5 years go by. I don't have any money to show for it. But what do I have? I have a lot of internal fortitude, a lot of strength now. I know what it feels like to be invisible. I know what it feels like when people don't want to acknowledge you or don't care about you. When I was at parking lot attendant, no one knew what degree I had. All they saw was an African-American guy with a sweatshirt hoodie on, handing out parking lot tickets. That's all they saw. They didn't see a Rhodes Scholar, they didn't see any of that. And I felt, I could feel the invisibility. And I had to process that, and internalize that, and wear that. And it put me in a certain headspace to understand, okay, how do I get myself in a position where I can always believe in myself no matter what others see, no matter what others view. I can't let others define my power, right? I have to believe in my power. In fact, the name or the motto of my company was believe in your power. That's what we landed on, believe in your power. Fast forward, so I ended up going back to the East Coast. I met my beautiful wife, we reacquainted, got married. Then I became a corporate litigator in a law firm. You talk about altogether different, right? From being in the hip hop space to going to a corporate law firm. Now, just to put this in perspective for you, this is a law firm where you have over 200 or so attorneys in the litigation department, and I was the only African American in that department. So, different worlds. Why did I do that? I wanted to learn. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to figure out, what is the language of finance? How does it work? What are these complex contracts? How is debt traded? And we live in a capitalistic society. Maybe I should put myself in that space to understand its inner workings. And I did that. I did that for 6 years. And then I decided it was time to take all that experience, come home, and put it to some use that felt true and authentic to me. I was 1 year away from making partner at the law firm. 1 year. I would have been the first African American, another first, right? But something told me that a truer path, a path that felt more real to me, was to take off the golden handcuffs and do right by the community, to do something that felt true to me. And that's why I decided to run, to give back, understanding where I came from. And I can guarantee you that every bit of the trials and tribulations that I went through over the course of my life prepared me for what it took to become the congressman of this district. Because when you turn on the TV, or you turn on the Facebook, or the social media, you're looking at the ads that they were running against me, trying to make me out to be a thug, or whatever else they want to call me, anti-American. I got my mom looking at this, my wife. It takes a certain level of internal fortitude, right, to get through that. You have to have already been through some things in life that put you in a position to find that strength. So here's why I'm sharing this with you. When you're trying to be great, when you're trying to push yourself, you have to take chances. Not reckless ones. Be thoughtful in your decision making. Think it through. Have a plan. But sometimes it's okay to get out there if you're unsure exactly what the outcome is going to be. Because the process itself has value. And I think that's what Muhammad Ali was talking about when he said, I know I was a greatest before I even knew I was. He was already there. He didn't know what the end was, but he was willing to put himself out there and trust that it would all work itself out. And there's a reason for the last 15 years of my life, I've had this bracelet on my wrist from the Muhammad Ali Museum that says, find greatness within. So, I come to you today and I want to take your questions too. I want to hear from you, young people, students particularly. I come to you, with one message really. Don't let anybody take your power away. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and can't do. You can be whatever you set your mind to, with the understanding it's going to take some work. It's going to take some discipline. It's going to take some up and down. It's going to happen that way. You can't control every single outcome, but what you can control is how you react to that outcome. What you can control is how you pick yourself up when you do fall. And I think understand that it's okay sometimes to fall. It's okay sometimes to fail. The key is how you respond in those moments, how you process it, and how you build that strength. Now, I also have some body art, otherwise known as a tattoo. And it says, "My brother's keeper." And I've had that since I've been in college. So I share that with you because this means a lot to me. Being in this space with you means a lot to me. Being in a position where I can have this kind of conversation with you means a lot to me. And I want to keep you. I want to be here for you. I want to help you however I can. Don't just look at this as me coming here once and saying a few words and that's it. Reach out to my office. Write me a letter. Send me an email. If you need a letter of reference, reach out. Engage with my office. Engage with me. Seize the opportunity. Push yourself. Because you never know what might be on the other side of that. You understand? We good? Yeah. All right. With that, questions?
Not all at once, not all at once, not all at once.
It just takes one person sometimes. Yes.
How did you build such a strong brand?
Can you repeat the question a
Say it
little bit
again.
louder so the people in the back listen?
Say it again.
How did you build such a strong brand from?
A brand? Like in terms of when I was, like in what space? Like when I was a candidate or when I'm now or when you?
Both.
So I mean, I think the thing that, the question was about how do you build a brand, although I would, to me, even the word brand, which I understand we're living in a world where there are brands, and that's sort of.
And that's what we're teaching, build your brand.
There you go, okay, well there you go, build your brand. I think brand, there's a word that comes before brand, I think, which is how did you build yourself? I think for any brand to really be successful, particularly when it comes to the individual, you've got to know who you are. And again, this all goes back to the ups and downs that you go through life. You don't wake up and just know exactly who you are. I mean, you know what? Some people might. A very small fraction of folks might just be wired a certain way and know from day one they're going to be a classical pianist or they're going to, be a pilot, right? But the vast majority of us go through life and we got to figure it out. We got to go through experiences. And we got to engage with the world to understand who we fundamentally are. And so when you're developing your brand, you're already developing it. Even when you're not consciously doing so, when you're just engaging with the world and testing yourself. So I would just encourage you to keep pushing the limits of who you think you are to find out who you really are. You got to keep pushing those limits and put yourself in places that aren't the most comfortable, that make you challenge yourself. You'll learn a lot about yourself in those spaces. Does that make sense? Yes.
Are you when you're saying about pushing your limits, are you satisfied from where you are right now, or do you intend to be like a senator or something?
So the question was, with limits, am I satisfied with where I am now, and do I have any other aspirations? And listen, what I've had to learn in every part of my life is whatever the future holds is dictated by what you do in the present. So for me, I have to be great as the congressman. This is who I am. And I have to own that. And I'm literally in my first year. I mean, that's it. I am new. Right? I wasn't in politics before this. I wasn't in politics at the local level. I wasn't in politics at the county level, at the state level. I went all the way to the federal level. And now I'm in my first year. So for me, I just want to learn. I want to understand, okay, how do I navigate in this space? How do I take my set of experiences that are unique, to me? And how does that help me be the best that I can be in this space? And what is the perspective that I can provide that maybe others might not because they don't have my set of experiences? So that's the whole point about diversity, right? The reason why diversity is a strength is when you allow that diversity to lead to different outcomes that someone else may not have seen coming, right? You're bringing in a new set of experiences that others couldn't have saw for themselves. That's powerful when you're able to do that. So that's the focus for me, is how do I just be the best congressman I can be? And the day I wake up and I don't feel that desire to do that day in and day out, then that's when you got to interrogate yourself and ask, well, what's going on, you know? Yes? Oh, the question was, it's kind of the same question. Do I ever plan on running for president? I have no plans. Well, again, my plan is to keep doing what I'm doing. It really is. You know, when you start thinking, you know, that far, you really do forget, or you can lose sight of what you're doing. Right? If you're, I'm trying to think of an analogy, but it's like if you're going through an obstacle course, and you're thinking about the obstacle 3 or 4 feet ahead, you see it, but there's an obstacle right in front of you, you're going to trip and fall because you're not focused on what's right in front of you. So you're looking 3 or 4 steps down the road, but you're not seeing what you got to deal with right in front of you. And for me, my focus is right what's in front of me. It's the work that I'm doing right now. And I think the lesson in that too is, as you do your work, you know, as you go through whatever it's homework, you know, extracurriculars, whatever you're doing to improve yourself, you don't have to feel like everything you're doing is taking you to some known place. Just know that what you're doing is helping yourself get better, so that no matter what is coming, you're ready. You're just adding to your toolkit, right? You're just adding to who you are as a person, strengthening yourself intellectually, you know, spiritually, physically, whatever it is. You're strengthening yourself so that as the world comes at you, you're ready. Yes. All right, let's get to the nuts and bolts. As a congressman, what do I do? Okay. 3 branches of government. Are we good on those? We are? What are they? All right. Off to a good start. Legislative, judicial, executive. The executive branch executes the law. That's it. They don't make the law. They just execute it. Judicial branch decides that the laws that are created are constitutional. They fit under the rights detailed in our Constitution. Because you could have laws that aren't, and if they aren't, it shouldn't be on the books. Then there's the folks who make the laws, and that's Congress. I'm in the House. There are 2 chambers, the House and the Senate. The House, 435 districts, carved out all across the country within each state. I represent one of the districts in the state of New York. Every district is, like I said, about 730 some odd thousand people. That's the makeup as it states in the Constitution. And my job is to represent that collection of people when I go to Washington. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or independent, whatever you are, I have to represent you. And what does that mean? That means that when it's time to vote, whether it's expanding healthcare, making it more affordable, whether it's investing in infrastructure, whether it's getting more broadband access for our community, whether it's immigration legislation, or whether it's protecting our environment, anything you could think of, taxes. I'm there with all the other members of Congress from all different political stripes, from all different parts of the country. I have to work together with them to figure out what we can agree on, which is not always easy, that would become law. that everybody in this country has to abide by. Full stop. So that's what the job is. We're making law. Or as I tell my kids, I got twin boys, and we have a lot of rules in the house. They're 6-year-old boys, and so I just tell them that Daddy makes rules, because they understand what rules are, right? Rules, and make rules. And the objective here is to make these rules and these laws fair and just. Hey, that's why I'm there. You know, you could have different approaches. You know, some folks like to create laws to consolidate power. Others, myself, like to think about how to create laws that make it more equitable, more fair, to give everybody a chance. You know, this country is founded on this idea that we're all equal. And we've been pushing very hard from the very beginning to actually live up to that ideal. And African Americans, by the way, have been at the forefront of that. Our story, which is why Black history is American history, is essential to America living up to this idea of democracy. Voting Rights Act, living up, right? Expanding that right. So we have been at the front lines pushing America to perfect itself, to perfect the Union. And that's a powerful, powerful thread to this country's history. Particularly for anybody who believes that we ought to be a beacon of hope for ourselves and the world at large by virtue of our commitment to democracy. That was a good run right there. Anybody else?
Last question.
Last one. Who wants to be the last one? Yes, sir.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'4", man. That's it? Right. We'll come back to the brother here that's got their business. Yes. Okay, great question. The question was, what problems am I most focused on? Tremendous question. That's a good question to end on. So the thing that drives me the most is inequality. And inequality can manifest or take shape in different ways, right? There's racial inequality, there's gender inequality, there's income inequality. There's a lot of different types of inequality of access to a good education. And my focus is, how do we get to a place where we level out the inequality across the board? And because I am representing a district that is demographically as it is, my mindset is, well, why is it that there's so much wealth out there, and there's a lot of money out there, a lot. Why is it that we have so many communities, particularly communities of color or communities that are in rural areas? Why are they not being accounted for? So whether it's the fact that you can drive around this district and not have broadband or cell service, good cell service, which it really should be a basic thing everybody needs to have at this point in time. It literally is like being without electricity. That's kind of what it's like. And yet we don't have it. Why is that? I think it's because a lot of the folks in government right now, in Washington right now, aren't thinking about the role of government to promote the general welfare. They're thinking of the role of government as to listen to the highest bidder. Right? Whoever has the deepest pockets, whoever has the capacity to, in essence, pay the elected official off, that is how more often than not it seems to go. And for me, we have to change that, because all these other issues, whether it's racial inequality, whether it's gender inequality, whether it's access to education, it's all about the system and its design. If the system is such that the only people who have access to it, right? The only people who have access to it are the people with the means, with the wealth to have access to it, then all of these issues that we care about aren't going to be prioritized. They're going to be pushed to the side and not be treated as such. So we first got to figure out how to make it easier for folks to get involved. To get involved. And I don't just mean vote. Voting is very important. Don't get me wrong. But you run. You get involved in your local political scene. You put yourself in the mix. And I think the more and more we make it easier for folks to engage locally, young people in particular, young people of color in particular, to put themselves into the mix, the better we'll be. But we can't do that if they keep creating barriers to access. If you have to raise tons and tons of money just to be able to get in and run. So there's just things that I want to change that make it easier for folks to get politically engaged, to do the work, and then from there we can take on these big issues. You know, whether it's racial inequality, gender inequality, or income inequality. Without solving the inequality issue, we're in a tough spot. You know, 2/3 of our country is living paycheck to paycheck right now. 2/3. That's a big number. And 1% owns 29% of all the wealth.
Can you say that one more time?
1% of the country owns 29% of all the wealth. 0.1% owns a fifth of all the wealth. More than half of all households in this country are sharing about 1.3, 1.4% of all the wealth. It's not a lot. The economy has doubled in size over the last 40 years, doubled in size. But wages have really gone nowhere. Productivity has increased. People are working harder, but wages haven't gone anywhere. And then we hear things about unemployment and how low the numbers are. And that's true, but here's the question you have to ask. What are the kind of jobs we're talking about? Part-time jobs? Working 2 or 3 jobs at once? Are people economically secure? And what does that mean? Does that mean their wages are keeping up with the cost of housing, the cost of child care, the cost of health care, the cost of transportation, the cost of food? And the answer is it's not. More and more people have jobs, but it's still hard to get by. In fact, the fastest growing class of people in this country, working poor people. Working poor people. So you got to think about how we can push back against that, and that's why I'm in this. Because I don't think we should be calling ourselves the richest country, most powerful country in the world. And then the flip side, the fastest growing class of people are the working poor. Those two things don't add up. You know, you judge a country, I suspect, by how it treats the least among us, the most vulnerable among us. And we're failing that test at the moment. We could be a whole lot better if we want to be great. Because to be great isn't just being powerful. To be great, you've got to be good. You've got to be good. And to have some type of moral compass within you that is driving you to do right by others. That's what greatness is. All right.
Thank you. Mr. Delgado needs to leave, so I need all the MBK participants as well as Mr. Moran to come on up, and school administrators, so we can do one group photo, and then he has to leave. After that, I want you to go back to your seats because I like closing remarks from Ulster County Legislator Gavaris before we break out for refreshments or if you have to take the bus. So come on, students, come on up. Come on up. Thank you, Congressman Delgado. You definitely spoke the words and wisdom of the philosophical understanding of go beyond greatness.
How you doing, man?
Right, let's quickly get into a nice pose. Students, you know how to do this way better than I do, so just make sure it looks good.
Yes.
All right, we're about to stand. Right here.
I'm going to scooch in a little bit closer together, and then I want everybody to look at me. I'm going to take 3 pictures, and then I'm going to step out of the light. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm out of the light.
Going nowhere, guys.
Okay, one more.
And they're Ellenville
Prep Academy. I really like these sweaters. Oh, it says FK. Oh, I like. All right, thank you, thank you,
Thanks,
thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
All right, if you can have a seat, just one more minute, if I can have Ulster County Legislator John Gavaris to close us out. What's nice about him is that he's an Ellenville High School alumni. His family has been in Ellenville for many, many years as business owners and much, much more. And so I would like to introduce you to him because he's now very, very special when it comes to the politics of the Ellenville community as Ellenville's representative of our Ulster County legislators of this particular region of Ulster County. All right, John Gavaris.
Thank you. And I'm going to make it brief because actually I'm already running late as well. So thank you all for having us here today. Ashley and Mr. Moore, and he mentioned before how this all got started was just a chance encounter that we had had. 21 years ago now, I was actually right here in this room. I was a student here. This was not a library when I was here. This was a multi-classroom separated by temporary walls because of the construction of the new wing here. So 21 years later to be back here is sort of interesting. Really, this comes up, a lot of what I was actually going to say was covered by the Congressman, who was fantastic. I had an opportunity to meet with him on several occasions. He's a passionate person, if you didn't already pick up on that from him speaking, and he actually does what he says he's there to do, is he's fighting hard for us, and I appreciate him taking the time to come down here today, because it's not easy with his schedule and as far of a district that he has. In terms of students go, I don't know if this still exists here, Multicultural Club, do we still have that in high school? We do, okay. I was in that for many years, and the one thing I saw out of that was you got exposed to different cultures that you normally would not have. My favorite part of it was when we had the food swapping, where you have nice dishes of each one, so food person, and you got to experience it, but you gained a perspective that you wouldn't normally have, and that's knowledge. Knowledge is power, and when you have that power really leads you to greatness, and something that Ashley had said earlier about positive behavior. There's a saying that, and I think it goes back well over close to 100, maybe 200 years now, that says, for evil to triumph, good people to stand by and do nothing. And really that is true. You don't have to be necessarily a leader, but you can be positive and you can support leaders and support people who want to move forward and change things. And change isn't easy. I started off on the village board, and I'm on the town board, and now I'm on the county legislature, and it all goes in steps. But you have to know what you want to do, and you have to know what you want to change, and then, as the Congressman said, you work hard at it. When you've had enough, or you think it's not going anywhere, you reevaluate, and then you move on and you go forward. So, I'll end it with that and say, for the students here, determine what you want to do, and you don't have to stick with it. If you decide that you want something else in life, go after it. But keep on pushing forward until you feel you have had enough. So thank you to Ms. Ashley and to the school, and enjoy the rest of your day.
So again, I want to thank John for taking the moment at the church, at the Martin Luther King festival we had, and we really appreciate it. You made this happen today, and I want to thank you very much for that. Let's go out, kid. Okay? All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I do believe there's some food and refreshments. Please help yourself, and thank you all for being here.